If we just accept this argument, well, if we raise wages, the company will just raise prices and it'll all wash out. Well, then what's the point of ever raising wages, right?
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
I had an idea for a segment that's basically like, I listened to talk radio this week, so you don't have to, and here's a very dumb thing that I heard. If y'all are interested in making that a regular thing, then let me know. But this week, I heard a few dumb things, and we may be talking about another one of them later in the show. But I wanted to use this to jump it off as a jumping off point to talk about inflation. So, Adam, let's go ahead and just play the clip, the minimum wage clip.
Alrighty.
Kidding. All right. Prince William, what are you hating on?
I'm hating on all the people that are that at first thought that Amazon was the standard, raising their minimum wage and
Okay, hold on,
giving their
pause it.
employees
Who
more benefits, and
thinks
they're like,
that?
oh, this is the company that we can.
Who are the people that he's talking
that's
about
turning
that
into the
think
company
that?
we want to be, the role model, and then Amazon's just like, watch this, and they raise their prices of Prime membership. Now, starting next month, it'll be like $20, $30 more for Prime membership for the year, $2 a month, and everyone's like, what happened? How could Amazon do this? Why are they doing this? And they just don't understand that this always happens. This is why raising minimum wage is stupid, because the company is not going to lose their profit margins that they had before. They're just going to raise prices, and people don't understand that. It's ridiculous.
All right. So,
Ridiculous.
first
I'll
of all,
still pay the
I mean,
$2
who
'cause Amazon
is
Prime
the
is
person
awesome.
that he's responding to here that thinks that when Amazon said they were going to raise their minimum wage to $15 an hour, we're like groveling at their feet? Like, I don't even, who did that? That's not like, that's a minimum. That's like, okay, you're paying your workers for warehouse work $30,000 a year. Like, oh, wow, congrats.
I may be jumping ahead of you, Jacob, but I'm just so sick of hearing that argument about the minimum wage. And it really applies to wages in general.
Yeah.
And you've heard that since time immemorial. Since the
right,
minimum
right.
wage was instituted in the 1930s, you've been hearing this argument. I will say that it's true what he said about Amazon doesn't want to lose their profit margins. Well, of course, that's true. But if we just accept this argument, well, if we raise wages, the company will just raise prices and it'll all wash out. Well, then what's the point of ever raising wages, right? I mean, by that, the extension is we should never raise the minimum wage.
Or anybody's wages.
Or anybody's wages. Because, capital will just eat that up. So we're just hostage, I suppose, is what they're proposing.
Right. I mean, look, William, the guy here, he's like a young guy. I think he's younger than me. And, like, I don't necessarily fault him for thinking these things because that's what we're taught here. We are taught, and, especially if you work at a conservative talk radio station, and if you've never challenged yourself or had others challenge you, then, it's not surprising that you're going to think the same thing as literally everybody else that you've ever met in your life. Okay? And we're taught basically that anytime there's a problem in society, the reason for that problem is the little people. Are wages going down? It's the immigrants. Somebody got hurt at work, she could have worked safer. Education's bad, it's probably the teachers. When prices go up, it's probably the workers rolling in their $30,000 a year. That's probably what's happening. And now when you say it like that, I do think that you can start to see how absurd this line of logic is. But let's investigate it a little bit further. How much profits did Amazon make last year before they raised their Prime membership price, which is what he was talking about, which is why he's saying they don't want to lose their profits, so they're raising they don't want to lose profits from the higher wages that they're paying right now, and so they're gonna raise the Prime price. How much profits did Amazon make last year? $33.4 billion in 2021 alone. That's money that's profits for an Econ 101 lesson for everybody out there, profits is the money that's left over after everything else is paid for. If you gave just half of that to the workers in the form of a wage increase, you could give every single Amazon employee in the world, all 1.3 million of them, a $6 an hour raise. If you just take half of those profits, that means you've still got over $15 billion that's just sitting there, that's like not been used on anything. That's before the prime price increase. What about the $30 million that they spent just last year fighting one union campaign in Bessemer, Alabama? Those union busters made hundreds of dollars an hour, not 15. But of course, they're not going to be blamed on the Dale Jackson show. It's the workers making $30,000 a year.
And I think it's also revealing that folks identify as a consumer first and not part of a working class.
Yeah.
And that's by design.
Yeah, of course, of course. Let's play this clip from a More Perfect Union video last year about this issue.
Let's look at some corporate earnings calls. That's where companies tell investors how much money the company is making and their plans to make more. A study by Bank of America found that these reports mentioned inflation 1,100% more in the second quarter of 2021 than in the previous year. But while they blame inflation for rising prices, the largest corporations in America have never made more money. The Wall Street Journal reported that 2 out of 3 of the biggest U.S. publicly traded companies had larger profit margins this year than they did prior to the pandemic in 2019. Nearly 100 of these massive corporations reported profits in 2021 that are 50% above profit margins in 2019. This is a clip from the 2021 third quarter earnings of Tyson, the meat processor whose chicken you might have in your freezer.
We have increased prices to help offset significant raw material and supply chain cost inflation. Pricings improved nearly 16% in the quarter versus the comparable period last year.
Some quick business talk translation. When he says pricing improved, he means Tyson was happy to raise prices, and that was good news for Tyson shareholders. Tyson's wants people like you and me to believe that they were forced to raise prices as a result of inflation. But the company is making almost double what it made the year before. Inflation gave them the excuse they needed to raise prices and reap record profits. Here's legendary investor Warren Buffett explaining that businesses are finding they can simply raise prices without it hurting their sales.
It's very interesting. I mean, we're raising prices. People are raising prices to us.
Yeah. So, there we have 3 out of the 4 of these companies. They had 50% higher profits in 2020 than in 2019. This was a video that was made in 2021. They're raising these prices after record profits, and then they're blaming it on they're blaming the wage hike or the price hike on higher wages. They made more profits, 50% more, and then they raised the prices. And they put out press releases saying we're raising prices because of wages. And people like William on the Dale Jackson show and people like Dale Jackson just regurgitate it. They just say, oh, the boss said it. I don't know. I guess it's true. The boss said it. I guess it's true. To bring it back to that first clip, these people are pissing down our backs and the folks on the Dale Jackson show are telling us it's raining. It's insane.
And something we mentioned off the air this morning was talking about monopoly power in the way in which that is so impacting this inflation phenomena, but it's really been left out of the conversation. When you have companies like Tyson that dominate their industry, dominate the market share, they don't have the competition.
Right.
You know, Amazon can raise their prices because where are we going to go? You know, Amazon has a bigger, profit share and a bigger dominance in the industry than some countries' entire GDP. Mm-hmm. It's so I think that's also worth remembering, that as the decades have progressed, we've had a concentration in industry after industry after industry. I mean, whether it's cat food, chicken nuggets, clothing products, beer, cigarettes, you name it, chances are there's about 2 or 3 companies that control the overwhelming majority of the market.
Yeah.
So, but again, you don't hear that being discussed as part of inflation.
Right.
Maybe they're pointing to, real life things such as COVID and some of the supply chain issues that have in part resulted from COVID, but also because of, another factor here is the just-in-time manufacturing and distribution model.
Right.
And so companies have over time changed practices to try to squeeze out every little drop of profit they can without any consideration for, long-term planning, right? Mm-hmm. Most capitalists don't think beyond the next quarter.
Right.
So, they have low inventories, they have very complex, complicated shipping and distribution mechanisms that span multiple countries, and that may be slightly more profitable in an average quarter, but throw in a worldwide pandemic and that sort of changes things.
Support for this program comes from the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 136 out of Central Alabama. Learn more at ibew136.org.